Honduras woman was beaten in ICE custody before death. Autopsy finds a transgender woman who died in Immigration and Customs Enforcement custody at a privately operated detention center was likely physically abused there, according to an autopsy report released Monday, and died after several days of severe, untreated dehydration. Roxana Hernandez Rodriguez, a 33-year-old transgender woman from Honduras, died on May 25, 9 days after being transferred to a dedicated unit for transgender women at the Cibola County Correctional Center in New Mexico, which is operated under contract by CoreCivic, the second-largest private prison company in the United States. There she developed severe diarrhea and vomiting over the course of several days, wrote forensic pathologist Chris Sperry, and finally was emergently hospitalized, then transported to Lovelace Medical Center in Albuquerque, New Mexico, where she remained critically ill until her death. The autopsy concluded that Hernandez Rodriguez's cause of death was most likely severe complications of dehydration superimposed upon HIV infection, which made her susceptible to the physiologic effects of untreated dehydration. According to observations of other detainees who were with Ms. Hernandez Rodriguez, the diarrhea and vomiting episodes persisted over multiple days with no medical evaluation or treatment, until she was gravely ill, Sperry wrote. Sperry's autopsy, the second conducted on Hernandez Rodriguez's body following her death, also found evidence of physical abuse, with deep bruising on her hands and abdomen, evidence of blunt force trauma indicative of blows, and/or kicks, and possible strikes with blunt object. An accompanying diagram illustrated long, thin bruises along Hernandez Rodriguez's back and sides, as well as extensive hemorrhaging on Hernandez Rodriguez's right and left wrists, which Dr. Sperry found were typical of handcuff injuries. Andrew Free, an attorney representing her family, told the Daily Beast that her treatment in ICE custody went far beyond neglectful. She journeyed thousands of miles fleeing persecution and torture at home only to be met with neglect and torture in this country's for-profit human cages, Free said. A spokesperson for ICE did not respond to a list of questions regarding whether requests for medical care were denied at any point during Hernandez Rodriguez's detention, under whose authority that decision would have been made, or who at the Cibola facility had access to batons and handcuffs as well as access to Hernandez Rodriguez. At the time of her death, ICE stated that she was admitted to the hospital with symptoms of pneumonia, dehydration and complications associated with HIV, and that comprehensive medical care is provided from the moment detainees arrive and throughout the entirety of their stay. In response to similar questions, CoreCivic Director of Public Affairs Amanda Gilchrist told the Daily Beast that we take the health and well-being of those entrusted to our care very seriously, and are committed to providing a safe environment for transgender detainees. CoreCivic, a publicly traded company whose motto is Better the Public Good, operates more than 65 prisons and detention facilities in the United States. Even before her detention in New Mexico, Hernandez Rodriguez had walked an extremely difficult path on her way to the United States. In an interview with BuzzFeed News a month before her death, Hernandez Rodriguez said she decided to flee Honduras after she was gang-raped by 4 members of the MS-13 gang, resulting in her being infected with HIV. Trans people in my neighborhood are killed and chopped into pieces, then dumped inside potato bags, Hernandez Rodriguez said at the time. I didn't want to come to Mexico. I wanted to stay in Honduras but I couldn't. They kill trans people in Honduras. I'm scared of that. LGBT people in El Salvador, Guatemala and Honduras are uniquely susceptible to violence and persecution, as well as during their travels in pursuit of asylum. The U.S. government has expressed skepticism about the veracity of these claims, as well as the number of LGBT people traveling in caravans headed for the border. In a telephone briefing with reporters last week, one senior DHS official told journalists that caravans pushed LGBT migrants to the front of the caravan in an effort to gain sympathetic PR coverage. Hernandez Rodriguez, known as Roxy to her friends, decided to travel more than 2,000 miles with 1,300 other migrants hoping to claim asylum in the United States, making a 6-week journey across Mexico organized by Pueblos Sin Fronteras. After arriving at the U.S. border and asking for asylum at the San Isidro port of entry on the U.S.-Mexico border near San Diego, she was taken into custody on May 9. After being held for 5 days, she was transferred to the Cibola facility that houses a dedicated pod for transgender women, which ICE says is run by medical and detention staff trained in best practices for the care of transgender individuals. Less than 3 weeks after arriving in the U.S., she was dead.